Hi, Paula. Please unmute.
Sorry. Yes, Zoom troubles. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Paula, Head of Marketing for Infinite Care, and we're very happy to welcome you to this morning's HR series webinar about extinguishing um, burnout. So for this morning, backed by popular demand, we have our speaker, our HR speaker, Miss Fabi Cariño, who will be talking to us today about burnout. Burnout is really something that has been um, happening more and more actually as people try to figure out how to go back or how to find the new normal. So um, today we will be talking to Fabi Cariño, who is a lauded HR practitioner. She has worked with several local and multinational companies and has received several distinct recognitions, such as Philippines Top Training and Development Professional. Fabi has studied Masters in Organization and Development from De La Salle University and is a certified master practitioner, coach, and speaker of the Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which she obtained in the United Kingdom. Joining Fabi today is also the head of clinical care of Infinite Care, is Shine Mangulabnan. She is a licensed guidance counselor who is experienced in workplace counseling, training, and career development advising. So if you've joined our webinars or sessions before, she'll be a familiar face. Her background is in psychology, and she's currently pursuing a doctorate in family psychology. Okay, so Shine will be joining us this morning, later on, to field questions and also to answer and discuss the topic of webinar with Fabi. Joining us also this morning is the General Manager of Infinite Care, Anne Ordonia. So to talk to us a little bit more about Infinite Care before we jump into extinguishing burnout, let me turn over the floor to Anne.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Paula, for that generous introduction. I see familiar names. So for our current clients, welcome. And for the new ones who have just attended an Infinite Care webinar for the first time, thank you as well for joining us today. So Infinite Care really partners with organizations in delivering mental health services to their employees. When we started in early 2020, our vision was really to get companies to provide ample psychosocial and emotional support to their employees, because we believe that they are a critical partner in really providing a good workplace environment that supports mental health. Since we started, we have partnered with over 50 companies now, serving over 75,000 employees, and we really are just getting started. The reason that we believe so passionately in what we do is that we see an increase in mental health issues, one of which is burnout, which we will be talking about today. It affects the working population, and it's really affecting overall health and productivity. In the Philippines alone, mental illness is already the third most common disability. And last year, the National Center for Mental Health has seen a record rise in hotline calls due to depression. The sad news is, even with this increase in mental health issues, less than half of people actually get the support or the treatment that they need. And this is where employers, leaders, HR managers like you guys come in. No? So we see that because the impact is really on the work, companies need to act now. In fact, employees are starting to expect, even demand support. Especially this topic on burnout, I'm sure you've heard your colleagues tell you, napagod na po kami, we're tired, and we really need some form of support. Also, there is a mandate that organizations provide this through the mental health care law, as well as the DOLE memorandum on how companies should support the mental health of their employees. Now, at Infinite Care, our role is to provide a platform, and we use this by leveraging technology. So we have an app that's available on the web, on Google Play as well as in Apple iOS. And really, what our platform provides is we bring together the different stakeholders in really making sure that the individual gets the support that they need. So employees actually get access to a full range of resources and tools that can help them in their journey to getting mentally healthy and well, right? So these tools would include check-in and progress tracking, self-care tools, content, a chat helpline. We also work with HR in designing your programs, in putting together the right interventions that's based on insights and data from the usage of our app. And lastly, we work with the providers meaning the counselors and psychologists who really want to focus on the help but do not want to be bothered with the administrative side of things. So this is really the role of Infinite Care. We bring together these stakeholders in order to ensure that we drive better outcomes for your workforce. So we're here to help you build a resilient workforce. And one of the things that we really do is do the education and the advocacy. And one of this now is really this talk on how do we extinguish burnout. And so without further ado, I now turn you over to the main event, the main speaker for today, Miss Fabi Cariño. Fabi, happy to have you back again today.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And of course, I think we also have to include Shine, who will be actually my co-moderate, who will be moderating for me this morning. Hi, Shine. Good morning.
Morning, Fabi. Good morning, everyone. Exciting, Fabi, no? We'll be
Ye-
talking about burnout this morning.
Yes. Okay. So it looks like we have some volume or what do you call this? Some issues on the chat. Well, I hope that everybody can hear us. I guess majority has said that their audio is all okay. And so I'm just getting some distraction on that part. But I hope whoever's having some audio, I think this is all from your end, your internet. Please check your internet. All right. So I am back here. This is my third event in partnership with Infinite Care. I'm really happy to be here, Shine, Pau, and Anna, for being part of your program and part of my passion to talk about wellness, not in the point of view of textbook, but my share is to ensure that HR leaders, HR practitioners, business leaders who are on this call would have a better view of what they can do, because the pandemic has really caused a lot of mental concerns with a lot of us. And in fact, 7 out of 10 has reported to have, based on Deloitte studies, 7 out of 10 has been complaining that, and really has to be addressed. 7 out of 10 of employees, so to speak. Okay, let me now share my screen. All right. So basically, what do I want to do for this hour? There's a lot of things to really talk about when it comes to burnout, but I really want to talk about basic things for you to understand it better. And I'd like to also let you know the consequences of having burnout. Just imagine if you've been having this kind of emotion or having this kind of predicament in the last 1 year or 12 months. I'm wondering how you feel right now if you're that individual. So we will talk about how we would be able to address burnout. We will also give you some tips individually how you could apply this, and likewise how you could be able to make an impact to your team members, because who knows, you might be the cause of burnout also. We wouldn't know, right? So let me first define, so we are all aligned when it comes to burnout. Three distinct things are about burnout, and we're talking about burnout. And when we talk about burnout, we talk about workplace stress. Note that it's workplace stress that is characterized by three important dimensions. So this is like a checklist. When you say you have burnout, one is feeling of energy depletion or exhaustion. You feel that way when you feel tired, when you wake up, you're lethargic already when you haven't done anything. Number two, it's increased mental distance for one's job, or you're cynical about your job or negative about your job. So these are the people who always complain about everything on their job, regardless that they've already maintained their job, they've kept their job, but there's this cynicism about it, that they really talk about their jobs, or they're vocalizing how they're disappointed, frustrated, and how they want to leave their job. So that's another manifestation of burnout. The third one is when it comes to professional efficacy or productivity, there's already a reduced or depleted output, or the quality of output is no longer there. Okay, so burnout specifically is a phenomena in the occupational context, and it should not be applied in other aspects of your life, because there are different categories or emotions that goes with the other aspect of your life, which I will be explaining after this deck. From Mayo Clinic, this I'm sure you are also one of those people who, when it comes to understanding what your needs are, whether physical needs or physical ailments or mental ailments, we always see Mayo Clinic, and they have defined job burnout is a special type again of work related. So it's, it's something that is consistent to what we have talked about, and it's a state of physical and emotional exhaustion. And of course, we have to also look into that their output or the accomplishment has already been diminished or has been reduced. Now, let me just also reach you through different emotions that probably you're going through right now, and how we can distinguish burnout from emotional exhaustion, from anxiety. And likewise, we talk about how this is also different from depression. Now, when it comes to burnout, I've mentioned the three categories. One is your cynicism about it, your energy level is depleted. And when it comes to your output, it's already lack of quality, or it's already less than what you usually do. So that's what you call burnout. I'll also talk about the process later on, so you can be able to understand how it happens, why it happens. And this is pretty normal to all of us. And another thing I'd like to distinguish is emotional exhaustion. This is the part where this is, I would say that it is more intense, because you're not only going to talk about the mental exhaustion, but there is emotional exhaustion. And this is the point when you're already tired, when you have already been really consumed by this kind of whether it's caused by an extrinsic or an intrinsic trigger. Emotional exhaustion talks about your mental and physical exhaustion. When we talk about anxiety, anxiety is more like panic attacks, when we have certain kind of episodes where we panic for 5 minutes to 10 minutes, or for some people, sadly, they have, certain outlets where their anxiety manifests by trembling of their voice, or they're shaking to that point. And anxiety is a symptom, and not everybody has an anxiety disorder. I'd like to mention that this comes with a way for our psychologists and psychiatrists to determine if this is a symptom or a syndrome that you have, right? Now, depression. Now, depression will be more about the feeling of loss, the feeling of having no meaning in your life, or the feeling of having uh, no anchor at all. I believe that what I would describe depression to be in my own personal experience is the feeling of having no hope. This is the distinction between the four. These are very good topics, and of course, in the coming months, we would like to talk about this individually. But I'd like to give a distinction that burnout for this topic in this next 40 minutes is really all about work related matter. Now, let me ask you to participate. So I'd like to know if how you feel about burnout. So I will be asking you to go to Mentimeter. So use your mobile and then go to the QR code, or if not, go to menti.com and enter the code 79155952. And we will now see from the audience, and this is a safe environment. Everything that we're getting here is simply to see data on how burnout you are. So please make sure that you're able to put your response on the burnout meter, and perhaps Pau or Shine, would you be able to tell me what is the outcome? Oh, there you go. Okay. So we don't have any responses
Sure,
yet.
Fabi. Not yet.
Okay.
Okay, let's
So the
see.
rating is 1 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, and we're seeing more answers.
10 as really good. The
Yeah.
10 is really good, right? Mhm.
Good to see that a lot of people are above 5. We also have some people who are part of this call who are at the 1 to 3. If you're not able to join, the code is there, 79155952. It's at the top of your screen. You can still join the Mentimeter. We have actually almost 300 participants in this call, which is really good. And we're just seeing probably 1/3 of our participants' responses. So how do you feel today? Well, a lot of above 5. There are some who are 8 to 10, followed by, of course, second is the 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least we see 49, around 49 of our attendees are around at our 6 to 8, under 6 to 8, Fabi.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, we can move on to the next question.
Fabi, I think the next question will be for later.
Okay, that's okay. So I'll proceed with mine. Okay, so thank you for sharing your sentiment. That's why we have the Mentimeter to find out how you are. I'm glad to hear that a lot of people are above 5, some are below 5, and then we have few on the 8 to 10. And I think that we have different reasons why we feel that way. I hope that this kind of mood, you look at it as a temporary emotion. Good if you're feeling great, but if you're feeling on the low side, whatever that you're going through, I'd like to send virtual hugs for you. We're here for you. Infinite Care is going to help you out. I've partnered with Infinite Care, and one of the things that I really like about this is that as an HR practitioner, my work now focuses on people while they take care of taking care of our people in that manner. All right. So let's move on. Now, let me just share with you some statistics on how burnout makes an impact. As you can see, Shine, burnout takes its toll. 63% more likely to take sick day, or what we call sick leave, in our company or in our companies, and we see that. And it's so difficult because when you're manifesting your or filing your sick leave, practically you're still working because our sick leave is done at home. And sometimes, just like me, when I went on my sick leave because I was sick 3 weeks ago for 3 weeks, right? But I gotten sick of dengue. Even if I was on my recovery, most of us are still working. All right. But on the other hand, I could tell you that burnout for some people is manifested through their energy, so they would likely take a sick leave. Number two is that 23% are more likely to visit an emergency room. Why? Because everything becomes psychological. I know of some patients and a client of mine who would say something like she would go to the emergency room and have herself checked because she feels that she's having a panic attack, or she feels she's going to have a heart attack, Or just like me, I go to the ER often because I have an extreme headache. And of course, this is not going to be related to burnout in my case. But for some people, they go to the ER because they have all these physical manifestations, and they feel that they're gonna have any kind of, aneurysm, heart attack. And especially so when we're just like looking at our Google, when we feel like we need to be our doctor for ourselves, we look at it as like there's already going to be a very detrimental side effect of what we're feeling. So we visit an emergency room. Then less confident about their performance. Like people are no longer feeling that they can contribute or they make a difference. That's another sign of burnout. Or most likely, of course, overall, we have 2.6% or 2.6 times where most likely people leave their current employer. In fact, I have posted this based on Business Insider studies also, that we have around anticipating the Great Resignation in the 3 to 6 months. If you're an HR practitioner here, do you agree that the attrition rate over the last 4 weeks in October, and likewise, we are anticipating more this coming November and December? These are the months I'm anticipating my attrition rate in my current organization to grow higher, all because people are going through different kinds of emotional issues, mental issues, and burnout is primarily one of the things that we are looking into as the cause of leaving their employer. And we're not only losing people who are just average employees. We're losing stars. We're losing the ones that we need most to make our businesses grow and thrive. And if we lose our great talents, I want to tell you that, how will we be able to give our customers, our clients, or how will we be able to make our establishments grow, especially that we are already just starting to recover from this pandemic now that the vaccines is already readily available for all of us. All right. And then, of course, half is likely to discuss all these emotions, whether with their friend, with their boss. All of this takes its toll. Burnout takes its toll and has a great impact not only on the mental health of the people, the health of the people, but generally, if you're working in a company, it makes an impact towards the business. And we lose a lot of money. When we lose people, we have to hire new people. We have to spend how to hire people. And then we also have to ensure that they have a learning curve of 3 to 6 months. And for sure, they won't be able to give what a former employee would be giving if this employee used to be a star performer. Okay, next one, I'd like to talk about the symptoms, and I'd like you to ask yourself, and I don't have to put anyone on the spot by sharing your answers here, but I just have to ask you yes or no on your own. And I will ask you these questions to find out if you have the symptoms of burnout. First is, ask yourself, have you become cynical or critical at work or negative at work? So just yes or no. Number 2 question, do you drag yourself to work even if you're working from home? Do you drag yourself to work and have trouble getting started? Number 3, have you become irritable or impatient with coworkers, customers? And what's worse, you can be irritable to clients. Do you lack the energy to be consistently productive? Do you find it hard to concentrate and focus? Do you lack satisfaction from your achievements and you think that, you're not contributing, you think that whatever you do, you're never enough? Do you feel disillusioned about your job? Some of you have thought initially that you've entered your dream job or dream company, but in the end, you're now feeling disillusioned and regret why you're even there in your company. Or are you also using food, drugs, or alcohol, or being a shopaholic on Lazada to feel better or simply not to feel well? Another thing is, have your sleep habits have changed? And are you troubled by unexplained headache, stomach, or bowel problems, or other physical ailments or complaints? All right. So if you have this kind of symptoms, most of it, these are 10 of it. If you have definitely 10, you're on the critical stage. When you are on the, when you have answered 7 to 8 here, 7 to 9, sorry, then you are definitely, just surviving. Okay? Meaning that you are simply just doing the work so that you could survive. And then for the rest, if you have answered less than 7, I would say that you are still thriving in a bit. But of course, if you are going to have more than 5, let's make sure that we address this burnout symptoms of yours. So let me just repeat: anything more than 5 is already a cause for you to understand that you are already on that verge of burnout. Now, let me first understand and make you understand why burnout happens. So imagine that burnout, or sorry, before you have burnout, that your capacity to do things is what we call a personal agency. So these are based on how we do things effectively. And most often that this comes from the demands of at work. So if you're a recruiter, your demand at work is to, let's say, hire people on a daily basis, or people on a daily basis. And probably your demand, for example, is to be able to get 40 applicants for that month, because based on your attrition, 40 left the company. So you need to replace that. So the demand is pretty high, considering that you have attrition.
Abby, sorry, I think you're on mute.
Oh my gosh, I've
There.
been
Oh,
talking.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
talking and mute.
It's fine.
Only
Yeah,
a few
Thank
yeah.
you.
seconds. Go ahead.
What? Yeah, for a few seconds. Okay, I think I pressed it accidentally. Okay, so let me just go back to that. Go back to that example. So if you're a recruiter, I would say that your personal agency is your capacity to supply the needs of the company and to replace the attrition of, let's say, the 40 people that have recently resigned in your organization. And likewise, the demand would either be to be hiring these people ASAP, and you know that for a fact. If you're an HR practitioner, when people leave today, tomorrow they would say, I need someone to replace, or leaders would say, I need someone to replace my resigning tomorrow, as if we are going to give birth just like that, no, when it comes to people. And I know that kind of feeling. That's why these examples are very close to my heart. I'm talking about the example that demands coming from my team, coming from me as an HR director for my current company. So there's a demand for me, for example, to be able to replace those 40 people. Note that for me to become effective and know how I will be able to perform my work, or for a recruiter to perform his work, there are 3 sources of the water. As you can see, there's one faucet, but there are 3 faucets supplying your personal agency. First is results. When people feel that they are getting results, for example, I've been recruiting in the past months prior to my 40 people, and I am not able to get the results, then that gets depleted. Results, the feeling of achievement, the feeling of being able to contribute because of your results will be depleted. But let's say, on the other hand, let's say you are able to have more people apply in your company, and you're able to, supply the number of people in your organization immediately, then I would say that the feeling of fulfillment is there, right? Ang sarap-sarap ng pakiramdam when you are able to fill in the people that you've been long processing for, and you're able to get that results. And I would tell you that this is another way for you to fill on your agency. Next is support. it's so essential that the people around you support you. So you get more energy when the people are around you are supporting you, not necessarily doing the same job as what you're doing because it's not their job, but at least giving you support in terms of encouragement, saying thank you. These are small things, but they really mean a lot to us. Don't you agree? A simple thing, a simple thank you for us, for us that we receive really is going to make an impact to what we do. A good job, or somebody would give us some praises and appreciation with regard with what we do. That is our best way to get support from the people that we work with. Number three is self-care. This is a big thing for me because self-care itself is a huge topic, and there are different ways of self-care. And I would say that self-care is what we do, our attitude of our self-love. How much do we love ourselves? We're not talking about vanity here, but how we take care of ourselves. Simple things as making sure that we're doing basic things like, sleeping early, making sure that we cut our work as early as 6 p.m. and just focus on our family. Now, things like that are part of self-care. So just imagine a recruiter not having any results or not having any support and not having to practice any self-care. What do you think will be the amount of water or amount of energy that comes out for your personal agency to do your work well? Definitely, it will make an impact. And all the more if you have a demand and you have stakeholders who are pretty demanding with what you need to do, then you will be depleted. Most of the time, demands cannot be negotiated. You know that as soon as you enter a company, some things are not negotiated because there's timelines, there's quality of work, there's people that needs to be provided in that specific example. And that goes hand in hand. There's a lot of things that needs to be taken care of because not only is the demand for you to deliver result, but it has to be able to be of quality results. So these are the three things that you need to remember, that any of this faucet closes will have an impact to your personal agency. That's why before we even get to the point of being depleted, we need to take care of how we view results. Baka naman you're such a perfectionist that when you don't get 10 over 10 or when you get a rating of, let's say, 10 or let's say 100 or a very good or an excellent rating, this impacts us already. So we have to make sure that we set expectations from the very beginning to ensure that our results are achievable. Remember, our objectives are always specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. We cannot give heaven and earth to people. So we have to ensure that we set expectations with our managers, with the business, with our business partners. That, for example, in my specific example of 40 people to be hired in 1 month in a corporate setup, is that realistic? Is that attainable? So these are the things you have to also review. We talk about support. Look around you and tell me, are this kind of people you work with, are the kind of people also to support you or who supports you? Even your family is a part of your supporter, because when you're working from home, people need to also understand that they need to support you in such a way that they give you time, quiet time, and making sure that they understand also that you have to work during that day. So these are all part of what we call the components of burnout, to ensure that we address it and to ensure that your personal agency is well taken care of. Now, let's talk about the next part is the burnout gap model. So this is very applicable, especially for people who are go-getters, achievers, and results-oriented. And they always want to be finishing something. They're the now. And so their expectation is far away and they want to, but in reality, it's so limited. So can you just imagine when you have this kind of model where you want to do something, but in reality, there are a lot of expectation that needs to be met, and likewise there are a lot of issues in between, then it's very challenging for you if your reality does not match the expectations from you. Okay, so the more wider the gap is, the higher propensity for you to feel burnout. Now, how does burnout happen? All right, for some of us, burnout can happen for quickly. I've seen some generation, especially the new generation of our workforce nowadays, they talk about burnout a lot. In fact, I have been receiving resignations less than 4 months, and they already tell me that they're burnout. Okay, then I would ask them, do you really think that it's burnout or it's something else? Because I've noticed for the lack of an emotion to attach to what they feel, they just say, I'm burnout. But I would like to actually be proud that I come from a generation where regardless of burnout, we just keep on working. And sometimes we come to a point that we wait until we go to the most extreme level already before we even address it. So it really starts off, of course, when you're a new hire, it starts with hope that, wow, this is a good company. I will be starting. So this is the first three, or probably the first 3 months. Yes, it usually happens when there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of eager beaver in you to contribute. Then you could actually already start frustration on the third month, and you really see, my gosh, this was not the paradise that I was promised by my recruiter. So HR told me this was such a great place to work for. They have this great place to work for award, but in reality, I am frustrated because on the third month, I don't see it happening. They make us work like slaves. That's frustration on the first 3 months. And this is already contributing to your burnout. Then you become angry that you're working 18 hours a day, 16 hours a day, or you're angry because people reach out to you with no boundaries. From 10 p.m. onwards, they're still messaging you, or from 6 a.m., they're messaging you even with your mobile phones, or during weekends, or during holidays or mental wellness day, they still try to trigger you to work. Or you come to a point now when you go down and slide down to apathy. And this part is the part where you don't really care anymore and you don't feel anything anymore, because simply you are cynical about your work. There's no more energy for you, or your output is already sacrificed. So as you can see here, the sliding happens quickly as early as 6 months, based on a common study on the BDOC model. Now, as you can see here, the burnout manifestation is going to already show on the 6 month. And so, how do you go back? How do you go back to that hope level, at least to a lower hope level, to ensure that you are not gonna slide down? As you can see here, there is, if you want to really ensure that you go back to that level, it can take actually 2 years. Imagine 2 years to fully recover from burnout, coming from a 6 months, very quick down path from hope into burnout, right? So I would like to call your attention that as early as frustration, as early as anger, or if you're stuck in apathy, right? And if, let's say, it doesn't matter if you're 2 years in the company and you're on apathy part, we need to arrest that right away before you get down to the point of emotional exhaustion and burnout manifestation at its crisis level, and it's already in red. So the way to do it in a nutshell is, first of all, you either remove the cause of your burnout. If the cause of your burnout is the company or your boss, there's nothing much you can do but except to leave the company, right? But if you are practical and you are able to manifest with your boss certain ways of doing things then you could probably work on a, let's say, strategy to ensure that the work that you do would be lessened, or the amount of work can be distributed to different uh, members of the team and not only you. And then it's also essential for you to accept that you are in that stage, but you are also willing to make a choice to choose to heal or choose to recover from this manifestation. Because if you just keep saying to yourself, and in NLP, in neuro linguistic programming, if every day in your life you just keep saying, I'm tired every single day, sure, we say that, or I want to resign, I want to leave this company, I'm so angry with this company, I'm so mad with my boss, etc., etc. I've been there. I know the feeling, guys. Know that it will only trigger your burnout manifestation, and it will not do you good. It pulls you down because you're actually programming your mind to have a self-fulfilling prophecy or self-fulfilling mode, and you're programming it because our words, the conversation we tell ourselves, is so powerful that it can impact the way we do things and the way we can think, right? So be careful with what you say to yourself. In fact, maybe if we have time later on, I would like to give some tips on how to remove that, the way we do things, and we talk to ourselves. Be careful. Make sure that we pivot the way we talk to ourselves, because sometimes that the greatest enemy is not out there, but the greatest enemy is in our head, and we are the ones causing that, because the way we think really makes an impact and makes it so powerful that if you're not willing to heal, you're not willing to take care of yourself, you're not willing to do something about this, then you are definitely going to stay in crisis, and you will have other forms of emotional issues such as anxiety, depression, and instead of just managing your burnout, this could add more to what you're feeling. And I don't want you to feel that way, and I don't want your employees to feel that way. So we need to actually arrest. Okay. And of course, you need to have another contract with yourself that, this is reboot. This is me. I take a sabbatical for 1 month. I take a sabbatical for 1 year. When I come back, it's the new version of Fabi 2.0. Okay. So this is so essential for you to understand, to know that there are ways to arrest this as early as possible. All right. So 10 ways why your company is contributing to burnout. And I'd like to actually talk about the common things that were based also on studies. One is poor leadership, right? If your leaders don't know what to do, they themselves are burnout or confused, then definitely their energy emanates to us. If you're a leader in this call, please ask yourself, what kind of leadership are you showing, or what kind of leadership do you have? Because if you yourself is burnout, then you have to take care of yourself first, because you make an impact to a lot of people. Just imagine if the leader just keeps complaining about the company or the department or whatever is happening in the organization. So a good leader does not set the tone for poor practices in the organization. Number one is really poor leadership, the lack of caring by your organization. They care only about the money or the results, or the role of the other employees sometimes is not delegated in such manner that there's one person only doing more work and the rest are not doing anything. I hope that's not the case in your end, because it means that there needs to be a review of job analysis, and likewise, a workforce should be hired to ensure that the role and the number of hours that's instituted in your organization needs to be allocated appropriately. Politics or sabotage, but there's no company that has no politics. Even if you set up your own company and you will really definitely start your own politics in your company. But I would say there are some deadly politics or lethal practices of politics in the organization. And it comes on varying degrees. And if you come to a company or you're part of a company that politics is something that destroys other people, definitely it contributes to burnout. Lack of resources because companies are trying to save money. So I've noticed that when you go to a restaurant nowadays, they will check on you and they act as the guard, they act as the waiter, they're actually the cook too, and they're actually they're also the cashier. There was one time that during the pandemic, I went to a restaurant which used to be a posh restaurant, and it ended up, just to maintain it, they just maintained one person. And just imagine if you're doing that every single day, and I was noticing how this person was serving me, definitely it will contribute to burnout, right? And then another thing is overemphasis on ROI, work overload, poor communication, lack of transparency because of the different changes, or there is no openness within the group. So a lot of backstabbing, a lot of politics behind your back, or unethical or illegal requests. All right. So likewise, what's so essential too, if there is no vision or direction by your change leaders, especially so how they will manage the workforce during this work from home or during this pandemic or back to work for some of you guys, what if there's no vision or direction by change leaders, definitely there's lack of communication, domino effect, so to speak, and everybody will just be doing their way of doing things without any proper direction. Now, I'll start from here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? What are your causes of burnout aside from these 10 things that I have shared with you? Perhaps if you would like to share on the chat, and then we could read them and tell me if there's any other cause of your burnout or manifestation of your burnout you can share to us in our chat. Any other answers that you think are part of, yes, toxic attitude of
Yeah.
co-working? That's true.
Mm-mm.
That's true.
And then home obligations, of course, Fabi. We cannot get away with that, no?
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad that my son is already in his 20s. I could imagine if you have toddlers at home and magkakasunod pa yung anak nyo, right?
Then doing
So,
online classes.
and doing online classes, and you have to also you have to tutor them. Mostly source is the coworker. Okay, tanggalin na ang mga coworker na yan. Yung inaasa sa'yo lahat ng work toxic ninyon and
Yeah.
salary satisfaction. Actually, yeah, the satisfaction of your what you do, that is an ultimate effect when you don't feel happy in already what you do. That's already sign of being cynical. No
That's
venue
right.
for office problem. Okay? Yeah, no way of being able to vent your issues, but you have to keep it to yourself, right?
Right.
That's true.
And of course,
Okay.
Fabi, we cannot take away also the anxiety that we're still continuing to feel because of COVID, right? And looking out for people, those especially in HR, looking out for those employees or colleagues who are also affected with COVID.
That's true. That's
Just
true.
in our
A lot
chat.
of people are still grieving too, especially if you've
Yes,
lost a loved
yes.
one.
Yeah.
Then we were just talking about grief, like you've lost your parents, your grandparents, or anyone in your family. That's so painful.
Mhm.
Grief over losing a loved one is the most painful feeling that I would say that you would go through, and yet you need to work and balance this. How would you be able to do that? No, I just want to also preempt that we will do a grief talk by November, since November 1 and 2 is All Saints and All Souls Day, but we will be giving you a different talk on this also. Work from home, pagtuturo ng modules, tama po yan. Okay, thank you so much sa inyong
Thank
mga
you, everyone.
inputs. Yeah, they totally agree with what I'm also saying with all this. And I feel you guys, I'm glad that you guys are sharing also what is causing your burnout. Now
Right.
let me go through. I know that I've been talking a lot. We have very less time, but I hope you can still stay with us. It's lunch break anyway. That's why we put it in this manner, because there's a lot of things to share also, and we'll give you time for question and answer also. I'd like to tell you um, certain ways to manage your burnout. And the acronym that I have coined here is called GOAL. So it's easy to remember, right? So I'll start off with tip number one is generate a holistic wellness approach. When I talk about holistic approach and holistic with the WHO spelling, is that we should not only look into work as our objective to fix, but our holistic approach would mean starting from our health, from what we eat, from what we drink, starting from the basic of how much coffee do we consume every day, and how much water do we take a day, because water really saves lives. I can tell you that when I got sick, I'm not a water drinker. I prefer drinking juices. I prefer drinking shakes. I prefer taking anything that's with sugar. But the thing is, this basic approach helps us to understand and make sure that our burnout won't be getting into that crisis mode. So, first is the physical wellness you have to take care of. Next is your emotions. Are we affected all the time with small things? Uh, Time to actually think about what are the things that you should be worrying more, rather than small things that you should not be worrying about. You should not be worrying about other people's problem, because it's not your problem. You should not help others if you can't even help yourself. So start with your emotions first. Another thing is that even your breathing, the way we do things on a simple way is making sure to get rid of your burnout is your breathing contributes a lot to the way we think. When we are thinking in a manner that we are burnout, we have what we call fog thoughts, where we are not able to think well. We're very emotional. And notice this when we are crying. When we are crying, we tend to say things, and we are angry. I cry a lot when I'm angry, so I say things that probably I don't really mean, or probably I don't really mean to decide on. So please do not decide things when you are too sad, when you are too depressed, when you are too angry. Don't decide things on those mental state. And don't decide also when you are too happy. Okay? Decide when you are already stable. So a holistic approach does not necessarily mean that you just take care of your work, but the other aspects of your life, especially so your relationship with your family. Yes, you may be at home, but I'm sure that most of the time we're probably on top of our laptop. It's so essential that we connect with people, we connect with our friends, we connect with our loved ones, with our family. If you're living alone, you can use technology and make sure that we get to meet our friends using our technology. So a holistic wellness approach means that your wellness needs to be thorough, a holistic where you have your health, your physical wellness, your emotional wellness, your financial wellness too, because that could also lead to burnout if you keep shopping, if you don't know how to budget, then this will also lead to burnout. So there's a lot of things on that, on self-care, but it needs to, every aspect of your life has to have an objective and has to have a strategy to avoid burnout. Number two, open and evaluate your options. Now, I'm not telling you to resign right away. I'm telling you to look at what are your options if there was a way for you to get rid of the burnout syndrome that you have. If you realize that the company's culture is the one causing your burnout manifestation, your depression, your anxiety, and all that, then it's time for you to evaluate your options. But I wouldn't tell you to evaluate and just quit your company just like that. Knowing that you are, let's say, a breadwinner of the family, yes, mental health and mental wellness is definitely a priority. But of course, make sure you open yourself in terms of what your options would be. If you want to, let's say, look for another job later on, what are you doing? Have you updated your CV, or you just keep complaining you want to leave but you never updated, or you're not doing anything to apply? How are you doing in terms of monitoring your applications? These are options for you to understand. Or what could be another option for you is really talk to the person that is probably adding to your toxicity. I've seen here a while ago that your number one issue would be your colleague that could be toxic, or probably your boss could be somebody who is toxic. And if an option is to speak to them and talk to them and give feedback, why not do so? And if not, if you're not courageous enough to give this feedback, because we Filipinos are very shy to talk about our emotions or talk about our feedback, then we'll have to talk to someone we can trust who could actually tell them later on if they could really change this toxicity. And so, because this impacts everyone in your team. All right, achieve mindfulness through meditation and breathing. Meditation is thinking inward. The answers, guys, is not out there. The answers are from within. So meditation calms the mind. 15 minutes of your time every single day. And in fact, meditation is now being introduced in some schools in America as early as 8 years old. People are being taught to meditate. You know what? If people are being taught to meditate, they say that we wouldn't even have war. Because meditation is a way for you to calm your mind. And 15 minutes a day, there are ways for you to actually meditate. I use YouTube before. I also use certain apps like Calm to ensure that I know how to meditate with through guidance. And likewise, through breathing method, 4 by 4 by 4. Inhale 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds for 4 minutes is what the Navy SEALs do when they are super stressed and when they're facing something that's very challenging, especially so during their training. And the 4 by 4 technique is something that you could do quickly. Or let's say you can do 4 by 4, depending on your age. If you're 30 years old, you can do breathing in and breathing out for 4 seconds. Know that when you know how to breathe, you will know how to manage your life. Next, live your life with purpose. All right. So make sure that your life is not just about earning money or paying your bills. I've seen that line before. Our life is not made to just pay bills on a daily basis. Please remember that. Your life has a purpose. Find that purpose. You're the only one who could actually know what your purpose, whether the purpose is to serve God, is to be a better mother, is to be able to provide your family. That's really up to you. It's really to be able to be a better partner. Live your life with the higher being, with a purpose. And I urge you to look into what is your anchor. That is a question that you need to ask yourself. If you want to live with purpose, go back to a question that's very fundamental. What is your anchor, or who is your anchor? Next, liberate yourself from toxic people and situations. Choose the people that you are surrounded by. Ensure that these people are far away from you, and if they do work with you, if they are your manager, so to speak, and you can't do anything about it, then what can you do with these toxic individuals? Actually, when I asked this kind of question also to one of speaker in one HR, and then he said that, well, the only thing you can do there is you cannot change people anymore. They are what they are. So if there's a way for you to find another boss, if there's a way to you to find other companies with less toxic culture, the better for you, the better for your mental health. And of course, it's okay not to feel okay. Always try to seek support. because support is always there. I'd like to mention again how Infinite Care has helped my employees whenever they seek support, because as an HR practitioner, I had to multiply myself before to ensure that I provide support. But when you have a partner to provide this kind of support, it would be easier to talk to a counselor. In the Gallup studies, I would also tell you that this is the holistic elements of well-being: your social, your financial, your community, the people around you, and likewise, you can also look at your objectives in terms of how you take care of your career. Your top priority should always be all about how you could look into a culture survey for your organization. If you're a business leader in this call, if you're an HR practitioner, the way to do this is to measure how burnout is your people by having actually just a simple questionnaire out there of 1 to 10, how burnout they are, or having that questions on this 5 in terms of evaluating, and a yearly culture survey will be giving you enough data to ensure that the things that you will be doing moving forward will help out in your organization. Please be part of the solution, not part of the problem. If you're a manager in the team, make sure you're not the cause of burnout for your teams. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to feedback. Feedback is good for you to grow. We are not perfect leaders. And it's not a sin to listen once in a while to their team to understand where they're coming from. Listen to work-related problems, encourage collaboration and teamwork and delegation. Make everyone's opinion count and make your work purposeful and not just all about results. But make sure that their mission is to attach their personal mission to their job, right? So they're not just selling, for example, insurance, but they're selling something that will help other people. So you need to be the one to make them realize this part and focus on strengths-based feedback and development. Additional steps is about, of course, start with yourself, encourage your team to have regular breaks, and mental health day should always be part of your policy nowadays. We have our mental health day in my company. We have 2 days in a month that helps our employees. Support your team and go to bat for your team, even if the workload is too busy. It's okay to also roll up your sleeves and do the work. But if you're doing it too much, then it's time to get more resources. Okay, so don't neglect your health and well-being, because it all starts from you. You only have one body and you only have that chance every single day. So we live every day, we die only once. Make sure that you prioritize your health and well-being. If you feel something, then take a break, take that well-deserved vacation that you need. Consider your burnout as a personal failing. Recognize it from the onset. And don't get back down with negativity. Be the change you wish to see. Be the positive influence in your team, because you put an impact to a lot of people around you as leaders. Right? Another thing is focus on 3 areas. Make well-being a part of your culture. Equip your managers to prevent workout. And make sure you design your employee experience to reduce workout. Now, remember, this is a last thing that I want you to also take note of. It's not just about putting a mental wellness program, having a partner, but you also have to change the way people work. What is the amount of work they do? We call this effective, we call this more of an effective way of working. And what we need to include is how can we also evaluate the impact of work, how they are impacting our mental health. So it's not just about culture change, it's about really going deep dive into the quality and having a job analysis in that level to reduce the burnout of your team members. All right, so that actually ends my program for this for this noon. I went over my time as I have already expected. And I think that some of you are still willing to stay a little bit longer so that we could actually entertain some of important questions. If there are question and answers that were already answered, then I will be able to also handle some of the questions, and Shai will help me out on this. If there are questions that can be addressed also from the point of view of a licensed psychologist, and I could also share my own experience and my own tips coming from the corporate industry for more than 2 decades. Okay, so I could also share my point of view on this. If you have any questions, you can do in the Q&A chat. Then we could start reading out some of these questions.
Yeah. In fact, Fabi, we've received a lot of questions during the course of the talk, no? But here I'm going to read some. Um, there's one asking, no? Is it possible for people to experience burnout when they're outside the work environment? Right? There's family environment, there are things that we used to love doing, and then suddenly we have to stop because of the pandemic, right? So what kind of burnout, or how is it similar also to office burnout?
Yeah, I think that the office burnout would really primarily be about work. But if you're also feeling other burnout, this could be because of several reasons. You could actually have relationship burnout. People who are married for more than 30 years, then they realize they're not meant for each other. Then they outgrow each other. That's what you call relationship burnout. And I think what will differ from each other is depending on the reason why this burnout happens. Like, for example, in that relationship burnout, you're no longer as, you come to a point that you're no longer as eager to see each other. You're no longer happy to see each other. You're no
Mhm.
longer able to share. That for
Yeah.
me is an example. How about you, Shine? Your experience on other burnout aside from work
Um,
burnout?
yeah, there are different kinds. So I think there are also different ways to combat it. No, depending on the situation, depending on the reason for burnout. Now, Fabi, um, what kind of approach do we need to like establish or learn? Because I'm sure, diba, it's like a skill for us to manage all these burnout and then the coping. So, what are the different approaches that you can suggest to combat non-work related burnout?
For me, if you want to combat or you want to arrest that you're already feeling this burnout kind of issue, is that you always start with whatever. Let's say you talk about your family, you talk about your relationship. When you're already feeling cynical from the beginning, from you're starting to realize that you're cynical about it, or you're feeling that there's nothing that you can get from this kind of specific situation that you have, then it all starts with self realization. Okay, and
Mhm, mhm.
admitting that you need to do something about it, because no matter, let's say, this training is going to be good for you, but you're not admitting that you want to do something about it. Because it's different when you just say, yeah, I feel burnout, versus something like, I want to do something about my burnout. I would like to say that what is really essential is self awareness, that you are in that stage, you're already feeling it, and there's something that you want to do about it. That is what will make it, because no matter how different tips you watch on YouTube, on TED Talks, or coming from Infinite Care, coming from me, if there is no choice from coming from you, active choice for you to do something about it, then you will definitely go way down to that crisis level. So first, you have to acknowledge that you need help, acknowledge that you can do something about it, and you need to change that mindset and program it every day. One tip that I could tell you, if you are feeling this kind of emotions, these negative emotions, overwhelming emotions, yes, that's valid. That's true. Don't deny it. Time it for 14 minutes a day. Your quota in a day is only 14 minutes. Every single day, you are allowed to feel that negativity, whether it's all about work, it's all about your relationship, your family, all about your money, anything like that. Time it for 14 minutes. We're not saying don't feel that way. Feel it for 14 minutes. Stop from there and go proactive. Do other things that will help you get rid of it.
Yeah. Thank you, Fabi. Practical advice, no? We have a lot of questions here. How about speaking from an employee side, no? Somebody who felt burned out already, and because of the leadership style. Okay, so what kinds of approaches do you suggest for us to combat this issue? Okay, so the question is, an employee is asking, burnout from a passive avoidant, okay, leadership style. Okay, so he's getting burnout because of the leadership style from the department or from the company that he or she works with. So how do you address this issue? Like you've
Okay.
mentioned earlier, that communication really is the key, right? Being
Yes.
able to put it out properly, having that communication with your leaders. How else, Fabi?
I think that, coming from my experiences working for many companies, in my lifetime, I have actually worked for 10 organizations, right? And there are no perfect leaders. Some are worse, some are good, some are really bad. And they have really taught us how not to be, right? I think that if you are in that situation, it's very challenging, especially so if that leader is very influential and there's nothing you can do. Of course, you cannot change that individual, especially so if that individual even is the owner of the company. How will you do that, right? The owner of the company is your boss, but you can't do anything because he is the owner of the company. How would you be able to change that? For me, there are two ways. First is you can never change them because they are what they are, and sometimes it's very difficult to make them realize that the impact of what they're doing is not very helpful to people. So step by step. So one by one is, first is communicate this. If you're brave enough to communicate this directly to the individual, to your boss or to that leader. Second, if you're not courageous, if there's a way for HR to have a survey, for a 360 survey, to understand better the leadership style of this individual, and this individual should be able to accept that we are doing this for him to improve. Number three is that feedback will always make this person realize if that person is open to feedback. You see, there are things that you cannot control. You cannot control how this person will react or will look at this constructively, in as much that your motive is to give feedback in a constructive manner. But in a way, if you're able to do these things and there's nothing that been changed because of the feedback, the communication, finding a way for you to vent and give that impact to people, and in the communicate the impact to people, right? So I think that it's better that, it's time to open your options, so to speak. That's where my open your options, so to speak, will happen, because you don't think that you just quit, but keep on trying, because especially so it's very challenging to find work nowadays also.
Yeah.
Don't make that decision out of emotions. Hinay-hinay lang din, no? Alam ko minsan gagawa tayo ng mga very emotional decisions, na galit ka sa tayo sa buong mundo that we will do this. Know that these emotions, you sleep over it. Know how to give feedback in such manner, not in a manner that's going to hurt your health, also emotional health, but sleep it over before you're able to do this. So itulog nyo muna, 'di ba? Mahirap yung
And
bubog sa
sabi
bugso.
nga, 'di ba? Sabi nga nila, Fabi, always remember to practice the pause. Right? It
Yeah.
will also save you from burnout, from regrets, and from feeling stressed, of most of all.
Yeah, one thing I also learned from my positive psychology course recently is know when to react. Sometimes not all these battles are worth your time, 'di ba? Kailangan choose your battles. Is this worth your time? Is this worth sacrificing your sanity?
Mhm.
Or is it something that you could handle? Is it something that you could really talk about? Then there's no such thing as sacrificing your health, all because of this, right? So
Yeah.
no, choose your battles well.
Yeah. Very interesting questions, and very happy with um, the questions that were being asked, very related also. Okay. Do we still have time, Pao?
Maybe for one more question, and then
Okay.
yeah, we'll try to answer as much as we can. But in the meantime, while the others are also sending in their questions, I'll flash also the post-event survey so that participants can help us by filling it up and help us improve our webinars as well as our topics, and also, of course, so that they can claim their e-certificate.
Yeah. All right. So I'll
Okay.
be reading the last question. Fabi, you've been a HR practitioner now, and how can we practice this at work? How do we address being more proactive in talking about burnout and talking about mental health? Like, what can you suggest in terms of programs? One, of course, is partnering with us at Infinite Care, right? Being able to have the third party provider who can help with the mental health initiatives. But how else? What are the other ways?
Ways for you not to even spend a lot is, first and foremost, it's not HR's responsibility only to take care of the wellness of their people. Form a group, form a committee of wellness consisting of, let's say, representatives from each department and division. And in a way, they could be your HR business partner, so to speak, and in a way talk about the issues that comes with the job, that comes with people's emotions. And you have a team that could represent the group. Number two, you could also have surveys that would understand how you could address the situation of your team members, of your employees, of your companies, because you cannot change what you cannot measure. You cannot just assume that they feel this way. So it needs to have data for you to understand better what is going to what is going to be your intervention, because there's no one size fits all, even if I suggest a lot of things with you guys. But it's important from the very beginning to have data for you to understand how people are feeling, and then understand what is the company doing and what can the company do in terms of supporting your team members. There are things that you can do. There are things that you cannot do. Specifically, let's say budgeting is not the responsibility of the company. Budgeting is coming from the individual. So you can actually compartmentalize what the company can do. Lastly, companies cannot just put programs out there, but I've said it needs to arrest the way we do things. It needs to be evaluated how work is being done. Is work from home actually helpful or productive? Is, let's say, the mental wellness days even helping you guys? These are things that you should be looking into. It's not just about programs. So in data we trust, right? We make sure that this data is going to help you understand what the interventions would look like. But it's very basic that communication, forming a team, having an evaluation of your team or culture survey would help. And then your leader needs to walk the talk. They are the ones that would lead the company into changing the culture of the organization. And if a leader has no taboos talking about mental health, talking about burnout, talking about productivity, the more people are able to feel psychologically safe in every organization.
Yeah, thank you, Fabi. Okay, Paula.
Thank you, Fabi. Such an insightful talk again. So we appreciate all the questions. Sorry for those that we were not able to answer. We'll continue to stay on after we close the webinar to be able to answer the questions via the Q&A box. But I just like to I just like to take this opportunity to thank Fabi for her insights, for her experience, and also for sharing her knowledge always in this morning about burnout. And thank you to Shine also for giving us your perspective as a licensed psychologist. So with that, we'll end the webinar. Thank you to everybody who attended. Please follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to know more about our upcoming webinars. Thank you and
And
have a good afternoon.
yeah, I'd like to thank also everyone who attended. I'm sure that you've learned a lot today. Yes, we will be giving you a copy of a participant's guide for you guys, so you can share this to your mancom. Some people are gonna share this down in their mancom. And of course, if you'd like to add me on LinkedIn, and I have been posting more about mental health and mental wellness, please follow me too on LinkedIn under Fabi Cariño. And till the next talk, I hope to see you and join us again in one of our webinars in the coming weeks. Thank you, everyone, and have a good lunch. And try to avoid being burnout in the coming months. Okay, let's end our
Thank you,
year
Fabi.
productively, and please keep safe. Bye,
Keep safe,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.